With a deadline rapidly approaching, lawmakers are still working to address the issue of so-called dreamers, the undocumented immigrants who were brought to this country as children. Hundreds of thousands of those immigrants, including many in Oklahoma, are anxiously keeping an eye on Washington, waiting to see if a deal can be reached that will provide some answers to their uncertain future.
These are nervous times for Oklahoma dreamers. In the 4 months since the Trump administration announced it would shut down Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, dreamers have lived with the fear that they could be deported, sent back to countries they have no memory of, and denied a future in the only home they've ever known. For dreamers like Tasneem Al-Michael, or Taz, it's a situation that is fraught with anxiety.
The legal repercussions, the discrimination that you could face from people knowing that you're undocumented. And to be fair, we are in a very red state. Most people do not really know what the face of undocumented people look like.
Taz has been living in Oklahoma since he was 9 months old, brought to this country from his parents' home in Brunei, where he was born. He says until a few years ago, he thought he was a native Oklahoman.
I actually didn't find out that I was undocumented until my high school fine arts program was going to go take a trip to New York, and then I realized I couldn't go because I wasn't allowed to board a plane.
For dreamers, efforts in Washington to find a substitute for DACA, which will allow them to stay in the U.S., seem especially personal. Taz currently attends the University of Oklahoma, where he studies drama and public relations. But he says the path to higher education has not been an easy one.
Being undocumented, there's no legal way for you to achieve any means like working, driving, and for a 16-year-old who was about to start applying for colleges, any form of scholarship money whatsoever.
And he says the uncertainty regarding his future status is difficult to cope with.
Knowing that I wasn't going to be able to vote at all, or knowing that I wasn't going to be able to participate in local or state elections or help the government in any form or way. That sort of stuff kind of breaks your morale.
There were glimmers of hope this week that a fix for DACA might be in the works, as President Trump invited Republicans and Democrats to the White House to find a solution. Among those attending the meeting was Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, who's been pushing his own plan for dreamers. Lankford spoke on the Senate floor on Monday to advocate for dreamers, calling them a remarkable group of individuals.
I tell folks in Oklahoma when I'm home, if I could identify for you 700,000 people somewhere around the world that spoke English, that are excellent students, that stood up every day in their school and pledged allegiance to the United States of America, that are in our military already, that are already working in our economy right now, are those the individuals that you want to reach out to and be part of that 1 million people a year that become citizens? I've yet to have someone tell me, no, that's not who we're looking for.
Last September, Lankford and fellow Republican Senators Tom Tillis and Orrin Hatch introduced legislation known as the Succeed Act, which would provide a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. Under the plan, immigrants would be granted temporary legal residency for 5 years and could apply for permanent legal residency after 10 years in the program, assuming they have no criminal record and have been gainfully employed. After 15 years, those dreamers could then apply for citizenship.
I'd like to give them the opportunity to be able to earn the ability to be naturalized, not automatic, to be able to earn it. And to be able to go through the process, to be able to get in line like every other person around the world, to be able to get in line, but not have to return to their home country because they don't know a home country, but to be able to get in line here to be able to do it.
Taz says he has some problems with the Succeed Act, including the fact that it requires dreamers to sign away some of their rights against self-deportation.
The only benefit I would see from the Succeed Act is that it does take a step in the right direction, but it doesn't go far enough. Solutions, I would say, personally, would be to cut through at least 1 or 2 of those 5-year processes, not having to sign away your own self-deportation order.
While this week's White House meeting seemed to provide some momentum toward finding a permanent fix for DACA, negotiations are still complicated by President Trump's insistence on a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico. Langford says he can't understand why the issue of a wall has become so toxic.
National security and immigration hasn't been a partisan issue until of late. And suddenly when President Trump brings it up, we've got a bunch of folks that used to be for border security that are now against border security because President Trump wants to do border security.
As the search for a solution continues, Taz says he's glad lawmakers are finally beginning to seriously address the problem.
At least they're talking about it. At least it's being brought up to these senators and representatives. At least they've decided that they're going to work on it.
But he knows the clock is ticking. DACA is scheduled to end by March 5th, but advocates believe a deal on immigration needs to be reached before a January 19th government funding deadline.